Certainly the most immediate and direct effects of the Supreme Court decision have been on the academic sector. Many institutions are tying themselves in knots, relabeling existing activities, or in many cases taking creative steps to initiate new programs, open to all students that address issues of access. Some have even revised their admissions requirements. For example, Caltech announced in August that it will drop admissions requirements for calculus, physics, and chemistry courses for students who don't have access to them, and offer alternate paths to prove mastery of the material. Therefore, the next question goes to Dr. Keith Moo-Young of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. How is the SCOTUS decision already affecting your ability to recruit students to a selective institution of higher education?
Thanks, Norman. You know, it's very interesting because this decision really goes back to 1996 when the state of California passed a referendum, Prop 209, that basically took race-based admissions out of all decisions of admissions in California. One of the things that we did at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute is we went to our legal team immediately. We actually felt, even before the Supreme Court, that this was coming to a theater near you, so we've got to act accordingly. And it's not as bad as it may seem, because we had already taken steps prior to the Supreme Court to make sure that, one, we access a larger population of students and that we continue to diversify our community. Our current president, Marty Schmidt, who used to be the provost at MIT, his plan is to create a welcoming and inclusive environment for our campus. And what that means is that when we look at our decisions at admissions, we, along with hundreds and hundreds of other highly selective and selective institutions throughout the country, we all use what's called the Common App. And about 1,000 schools throughout the country, if you have children, they probably apply to the Common App. So the Common App actually came out and worked with us to where I don't think there's a single school that now has on the Common App race as a category when the students apply. So how do we assure that students do get the opportunity? Well, it's interesting because I spent half the day on Wednesday with our admissions team, and what we were looking at were ways in which we were actually taking a look at the students in different perspectives. And what we have is we have a rating system basically for the strength of what type of curriculum they come through, and that also equates to where did they go to high school. And so based on those requirements, some schools, we don't require an essay, but some schools are now requiring essays for the students. And if they have been socially or economically disadvantaged, in some cases, they can write that up in their admissions applications. Some schools do interviews where, you know, they down select to a certain select group of students and then they interview them. Every student that applies to Rensselaer has an admissions counselor who then discusses the case with the admissions team to see who we're going to let in for that particular year. And we base a lot of our decision and decision making based on the student. Now, one thing that also, if you also look at socioeconomics of students, especially students who are from underrepresented backgrounds, a significant portion of them come with high financial need. So one of the things we use is need-based aid. And in the need-based aid, you know, at schools like Rensselaer, a student who comes from certain types of backgrounds will get up to and in excess of almost 100% of their schooling paid for. Now, that was one of the things that when we look back and ratchet back our decisions made on the new laws, we had to take a step back and say, okay, so how do we make sure? So one of the things we had to do, for example, is we had one of our distinguished graduates, we had to remove his scholarship reception because that would be a violation of the new Supreme Court ruling. However, what we've done is we've wrapped the events into the overall events that we're having. And, in order to make sure that we are meeting financial need, we now have to make these decisions based on, socioeconomics and their scores, as opposed to before we were just basically making it, we were making a lot of decisions based on the fact that we were giving full financial aid to our underrepresented minority students. So now we're not doing that, but we're using other factors to try to incentivize these students. What's going to happen? Well, if you look at the University of California, it's very interesting because almost 30 years ago, when Prop 209 came into effect, significant drop in the number of minorities in their programs. But now, if you look today, I think there are 4 Hispanic serving institutions that are in the University of California: Santa Cruz, Riverside, Merced, and Irvine, and 2 or 3 that are emerging. And so it's very interesting how the tide has swung, but they have continued to abide by Prop 209. It's just that the population base of California just lends itself to they have to diversify, because the better students are coming from backgrounds of underrepresented minority, especially the large portion of the population in California that's Hispanic.